Don't fuck with my opportunity and don't fuck with my money. Some of you guys know who I am connected to in this industry and how easy it would be for me to call in fucking favors and have big names on the show, but I am putting in this groundwork on my own. So of course, situations like this hit me to my fucking core. I try to say goodbye and not choked, because trust me, there are a lot of artists that I didn't even mention on this episode who are in my inbox who have done me fucking dirty, and they know exactly who they are. Welcome to Unshut, a place where if at any point you feel like you need to shut the up, don't. What? No guest? No guest this week. We are writing solo for the first time in 30 weeks. Just before hitting record, I checked the calendar and checked the last solo episode I did and realized it had been 30 weeks since the last time I did a solo episode. Thanksgiving week of 2024. Crazy how the weeks just fly by, and honestly, little kudos to me because I am pumping out episodes every single week. And since I launched October 2nd, I believe it was October 2nd of 2023, I have yet to miss a single week of posting an episode. Even I am low-key a little bit surprised with myself for going this long. And you guys, I am still having the time of my life. I am constantly running through struggles and bumps along the way, but truly there is this fire inside of me that really wants to see this through. And what through means, I have no idea, but all I know is that the constant rewards that have come out of this show have been some of the most fulfilling things I have ever had on any other journey that I've ever taken. So with that being said, we are not slowing down. We are still rolling out episodes starting next week with my next set of guests that I have already previously recorded with, and I'm super excited for those to start to come out. But to be honest with you guys, I needed a bit of a reset, not just for the show, but also to kind of gather myself together and really catch myself up on the last solo episode that we had. And to be honest with you, as much as I struggle with the confidence, the cotton mouth, how nervous I get talking to a camera by myself, I think that the progress from when I launched is so incredible for me to see. So it's almost like a personal reason why I wanted to do another solo episode, aside from the fact that I told you guys I would do another one and I left you with a cliffhanger, which we'll get to in a little bit. But the point is that seeing the progress of the show and where I am today versus where I started is probably one of the most motivating things for me personally. And so with that being said, the transparency and the tea that's going to be on this episode, it's going to be like no other. So truly brace yourselves and also bear with me, okay? Because if you've been here since the beginning, you know I can be a little bit scattered brain, I can talk a little fast, and I can get ahead of myself. So be patient with me as this is still a learning curve for me, okay? All of it, the whole thing, the show, the interviews, the social media posting, the marketing, all of it is still a learning thing for me. So whether you're new or whether you've been with me since day one, thank you so much for putting up with my shit, all right? While briefly reviewing the last solo episode I did, I started off the episode with how I was procrastinating, recording this on a Wednesday and airing it on Monday. Bitch, some things don't change, all right? Because it is Friday and I am airing this one on Monday. But like I've said before, this is part of the beauty of running my own ship. Not because I'm lazy or because I didn't want to do it. When I tell you guys that the internal panic when I go into recording solo is so fucking severe, right now my hands alone are fucking clammy and sweaty, okay? Just to give a little bit of context, these still terrify the fuck out of me, okay? So the preparation leading up to them really does fuck with my head, and also trying to condense everything to keep it as organized as possible is so difficult for me because I am so scattered brain and I get so easily distracted. No lie, I get bored very easily. So the second I start to write notes about a topic, by the time I go back and revisit, I'm like, ugh, that's already boring. I don't want to talk about it. But to be honest with you, the procrastination, the pressure is part of the magic that comes onto the show, the spontaneous side of things, the last minute touches on every episode. Usually, for the most part, I would even safely say 99.9% of the times are what becomes some of the most memorable parts of the show. And that's just my personality. I want to move on to something bigger and better all the time. And the way I conduct interviews sometimes reflects that, right? I'll have my set of questions, things that I know for sure I want to talk about, but the spontaneous segments that I do on the show really do come to me last minute because, again, by the time I go and revisit those notes, I want to move on already. I'm like, God, this is fucking boring. So this is just a way for me to keep things fresh. Procrastinating is just something that has not changed, but I like to think that I do well under pressure and while I'm procrastinating. And maybe that's just a lie I tell myself. Maybe I could do better if I prepped a little bit better. But to be honest with you, I do also think that this is part of keeping things authentic with you guys and transparent, is not scripting and not reading off of my laptop notes the way I was in my first couple of episodes. You know what I mean? So going back to that last solo episode, which again, I cannot get over the fact that it's been 30 weeks. First of all, not that anyone's been hounding me or knocking on my door saying, hey, when's the next solo episode dropping? I really am sorry for making you guys wait this long. And I promise you, we're not going to recap everything on that episode or do it the way we did that solo episode. But I do also want to say this, something that I said on the beginning of that episode was how I am not the best, but I'm having so much fun doing it. Bitch, I still don't know what I'm doing. And I know that I am not the best. I've made jokes on social media and on other posts where I am not Alex Cooper. I am not the Joe Rogan experience. But now I can confidently say that I love seeing my improvement on the show. It keeps me going, and I can't wait to see what else is going to come from this journey, from this blind leap of faith that I took of starting a podcast with no podcasting experience, let alone any journalism experience, let alone any experience conducting interviews. So I can't wait to see where this all goes. While I was doing the math on how many weeks it has been since my last solo episode, I got curious to see how many interviews I've conducted on the show. You guys, over 75. I have had over 75 guests on the show. Isn't that crazy? Like when you start to do the math and look at the actual numbers, it's actually insane. Like, who would have thought? I know I had always seen this, I had always imagined it and envisioned it, but to actually see it in front of my face is so bizarre to me because when I tell you guys, I've been role playing this part of my life since I was a kid. I was always in the fucking tub, in the shower, conducting interviews or being interviewed. It's crazy how that full circle moment has really come to life because I really do feel like I am exactly where I belong. And so I truly encourage all of you guys to take those blind leaps of faith and do everything you said you wanted to do. I feel like I've said that on so many episodes, but I really do mean it. I am living proof that doing things blindly with no expectation, don't think about the money, don't think about any of it, that will bring you the most rewarding parts of your life. And when I tell you, I am so grateful and humbled by so many connections on the show. It has truly just been one of the most beautiful things ever. And so I'm geeking out about it. Thanks for geeking out with me. And I hope that someday, if you ever need motivation to jump into something blindly, you think of me and you think of this episode and all the other episodes and everything I've built since the ground up, since launching the podcast. And I hope that that can give you just the little push that you need to tell yourself to just do it. I also want to humbly brag real quick on the diversity of the show. It was actually really cool to see the different genres and the different types of guests I've had. I've had so many different types of guests, and that truly brought me so much joy because one of the premises of the show, it means open. Unshut means open. And to be able to actually see and acknowledge that I've been able to connect with so many blends of life, which honestly is one of the coolest things ever because I can genuinely say I have something for just about anyone. That is truly something I haven't really put so much thought into, but I do think it's the coolest thing ever. Another humble brag real quick, Zoom. I am doing all of this via Zoom. Like I know in a social media post and also on a weekly quickie, I remember seeing something like "You're welcome, Zoom, for keeping Zoom alive" or something like that. And truly, I cannot believe we have made it this far via Zoom. And to be honest with you guys, this is something that I am so fucking proud about because whoever said conducting interviews through Zoom was dated or you couldn't have chemistry unless you did it in person, I really do stand by this. They have not seen my show. And three things I want to talk about Zoom real quick. I want my show to be proof that you do not need in-person chemistry to conduct successful interviews. Two, can I also toot my horn real quick because my editing skills have only improved, and also I cannot be the only one that loses my fucking mind when I watch other interviews that are done via Zoom and I see how lazy the editing is. One of my biggest pet peeves is when I watch an interview that's being conducted via Zoom and they don't edit screen to screen. They just leave both screens on the entire time. And let me tell you something, it drives me fucking nuts. All right. Could you imagine if every week I would drop an episode and the whole time while someone's talking, you just see me in silence? It's so fucking annoying and also drinking my water. So I like to edit my episodes differently than a lot of other shows that I've seen. And shit, what do I know about editing, right? But this is just purely, I guess, aesthetic and taste. But I don't know about you, but whenever I watch those interviews, whenever I watch those clips, I watch the person that's not talking and it's so fucking cringy. This is truly something that I give myself kudos for all the time because I put so much love and effort into editing these episodes and switching from my screen to their screen. It is not fucking easy. I don't have the time today to go into detail on how I edit them, but this is just a reminder that this is all DIY, okay? I am still editing and doing everything completely by myself. And fun fact, one episode used to take me an entire fucking week to edit, okay? Now I literally can knock out a whole hour's worth of an episode and condense it down to like 45 to 50 minutes between a day and a half. So I know I'm improving, I know I'm getting better, but doesn't that drive you guys fucking nuts? Watching an interview via Zoom and all you can see is the other screen of the person that's either not engaging or looking just dumb as fuck, just nodding. I hate it. We don't do that here. So that's just the second thing I want to bring up about Zoom. Thirdly, this is your reminder that you do not need virality to attract guests onto the show. One of the biggest compliments on my show, I believe, is my approach and also the premise of my show. I feel like I'm able to stand out with those two things alone. And then, of course, when people go and watch, they see my style, my interaction, my types of questions, my segments, my unique creative segments that I love doing on the show. And I want to remind everyone that that is enough. You do not need virality and a fuck ton of social media followers to do it. And I say that because I don't want anyone to ever feel discouraged to start a podcast or start conducting interviews and thinking that they cannot do it without having a large social media platform. Now, with that being said, though, I am not negating the fact that I was putting off social media for so long. And honestly, I've been hitting it so hard. I am posting clips and promoting the show like never before, and I am seeing the numbers change, and I am seeing those numbers reflect my episodes across all streaming platforms, including YouTube. Now, I do think there's a bit of a lesson there. Don't try to figure it out all at once. You don't need to figure out your episodes editing, getting guests on top of social media clips. It's a lot to fucking juggle. So as much as I beat myself up for not hitting social media hard when I first launched, in a way, the bright side of that is that I'm glad I didn't because then I would have been juggling way too much all at once. And so something that worked out for me that may work out for someone else is that I mastered one thing before dabbling into the other. And by mastering, I don't mean that I am the best at it, but creating a system that somewhat works and then moving on to the areas that you lack. For example, for me, it was editing and posting clips on social media. It really did help with the pressure and feeling like I had to figure it out all at once. Now, if you're capable of doing that, fucking kudos to you, but that did not work out for me. And so, as much as I regret that I neglected social media clips or things like YouTube for so long, in a way, I'm glad I didn't because now I'm able to navigate those new waters completely different. And honestly, I'm crushing it. Not to toot my horn too much, but I do humbly see that I am fucking killing it. I am crushing it with posting clips and constantly promoting my guests in my show. And it's really fucking cool. And I'm actually really enjoying that. I literally can now hop on a last minute call and recording session and still fucking crush it. But now, because that comes a little bit easier to me, I am now finally able to truly take the time to extract clips from the episodes and promote them, etc., etc. So just three little things in regards to Zoom and podcasting that I kind of wanted to talk about on this episode, okay? So if you're listening and you want to dabble into it, that was my approach. Maybe that approach works for you, maybe it doesn't. And honestly, part of navigating these solo episodes is literally asking myself in this moment, why the fuck am I talking about this? Like there really is someone out there trying to start a podcast because of me. But then I retract and think, wait a minute, you never know who's watching and you never know who's going to come across this. So now you see how my mind works. I immediately start to retract as I talk and then I overthink it, but then I circle back to it's okay. So let's drop that and move on. But I will say this, consistency is truly key. It's something we constantly hear, but for the first time, I am living in it. I am living in it. So there's a difference in hearing it all the time and truly immersing yourself in what that means. And I am definitely in that era right now. One of my favorite reminders in regards to consistency and why it's so important to never stop going, David Cook. I want to share this real quick. David Cook's team didn't respond to me until an entire fucking year. So if that's not proof alone that staying consistent and not throwing in the towel really does pay off, this was a big one for me because I inquired, never heard back, and honestly, I kind of just let it go, was like, oh, that's all right, move on. I still have other guests lined up and I'll just keep going. And then literally a year later, I hear back from them saying that they want to do an episode together. So imagine if I had thrown in the towel by the time that they responded, that would have been such a stinger for me personally. So I'm glad I stayed consistent. I'm glad I kept the show going, and I'm glad I'm still going to keep going because you never know who can come back around. Something I've been dying to revisit since my last solo episode is one of the biggest cliffhangers ever on the show, and that was about the network offers that completely fell through for the show. I haven't talked about this on social media. I haven't talked about this on my broadcast channel. I haven't talked about it at all, and I think it's time we addressed it. Now, full disclaimer, we are not going to be name dropping those networks that we're pursuing unshut, just to avoid any sort of defamation or anything like that. They know who they are, and that's all we have to say about it, okay? But we are going to talk about why those offers fell through. And one of the offers, when it came to monetization through ads and distribution of the episodes, they had offered the show to be distributed through their main hub. So, for example, right now I upload all my episodes through Spotify podcasters, which then Spotify distributes to iHeart, Amazon, all the other streaming platforms, which makes Spotify podcasters the main hub where I upload my episodes. Well, in one of these offers, they wanted to stop using Spotify podcasters and do it through their hub. And so how that became one of the key components to not taking the offer was because there was no clarity in who was going to make what per ad, and also having no say in what those ads were going to be. So in that offer, they stated that they wanted me to just send them the episode completely unedited, and then they would filter in all the ad spaces. Well, I wanted some of that control, right? I wanted to see how it was going to be edited, which is not a lot to ask for, right? I truly wanted to be in the loop on how ads were going to be splitting in between the episode. For example, right now in the episode, I already hit breaks in the middle of the episode to post clips of music, right? So this essentially would have been what they would have been doing with ads. But the reason that it turned me off is because I wouldn't have been able to have a say on when those ads were going to come in. And so where that became an issue for me is because that matters to me, the quality of the audio and the swift transitions between me talking versus when an ad starts really does matter to me. I've seen so many shows where the ads just start at the most random, inconvenient time while someone is talking, and I don't like that. And what killed me about this is that when I asked, well, who's doing this? Is this through AI? Is this through a system that it just randomly picks? They were like, no, we do it in-house. So I'm like, well, if a person is physically adding those ads in, why can't I have a peek at where those breaks are going to be? And so then that network came back and said, listen, we just don't want you involved. We just want your audio, your guest, and then we'll do the rest. I didn't like that at all. I still wanted some sort of control. Now, keep in mind, that does not make me a control freak, right? Like, I would love to have a producer. I would love to have someone that does all my editing and does all the splitting mid episodes for all the music breaks, etc. But I would still like to be able to see the final product before it goes out to the public, right? Because at the end of the day, no one's going to be given credit in regards to all the editing happening. It's my face on the episode, it's my voice. So if shit goes south or if the quality starts to go down, they're not going to be like, oh, it's the network. They're going to be like, oh, Mo's show sucks. It's really just going to fall back on me, right? Because I am the face of the show. I still have integrity in what my product is going to be and how these episodes are going to get pushed out. That shit matters to me, okay? And I was just not about to let anyone have full freedom on one, what those ads were, and two, how they were going to cut my episodes and what they were going to leave and take out, and I would not have a say in it? Absolutely not. The second thing that was brought up through these offers, which later on became another key component to why the offers fell through, were audio ownership rights. This was something that was completely new to me, and I didn't really know anything about it, but I was so thankful that I had a really good legal team that helped navigate this part of the contract because I truly had no idea this was even a thing. In one of the contracts, they wanted to own all of the rights to the audio, which meant that as soon as I would be done recording with an artist, they would own the rights to that audio and the sound of that audio, which basically meant that they would have ownership of those voices in that episode. Now, without going too much into it, this is because of copyright issues, right? It means that no one can go and use this audio and monetize it or do other things with it without freeing up those rights, basically. And that's just the easiest way for me to explain it. But what bothered me about this is that they wanted to exclusively own them, which meant that if at any point I left the network, they would still own all that audio. But what really bothered me, what really turned me and my representation off about this was is that they wanted to own everything prior to coming onto the network. And the reason that became a problem for me was because when it came to monetizing, and if anyone wanted to buy out that audio, that network would get paid, not me. I don't know if that's easy to follow along, but again, it's a lot to navigate and it's still a lot for me to process and say out loud. But at the end of the day, that was my audio. That is my voice on that episode. That is my guest on that episode. I'm the one creatively conducting the interview. I'm the one asking the questions. So, long story short, when it comes to the audio rights, I have full ownership of them because that's my voice. That's my creativity on those episodes. I am asking guests to come on my show. So, therefore, it's my show. I own my voice. I own the sound. I own the audio. And so, the thought that someone wanted me to sign over ownership of all of my audio, including just my voice in general, for them to later on go and sell it and make money off of it, but I get nothing of it, truly rubbed me the wrong way. And this was one of the first scenarios that made this a little bit scary for me. I'm like, there is no way that's even a thing. Well, in the media world and in the networking world, this is a thing. Someone can own what your voice sounds like and what your voice is in that audio. And that's a very scary thing, especially with how we're moving in technology with AI and so many sound bites like that. Absolutely not. I want the ownership of my show and the audio that comes with it. I was not going to go and just freely give it to someone for them to make money off of it. Like, that's crazy. Now, shit, if they want to fucking sign a check and later on own all the audio that I own, but they want to buy it out, by all means, give me a good fucking offer. But the thought of me giving it to someone for free and then they go and sell it, absolutely not. Not on my watch, bitch. All right. That's definitely not going to happen. I have been putting so much groundwork for this shit. I'm not giving that out for free, all right? So this was definitely a learning curve for me and something that I am now applying on the show. Today in 2025, Unshut owns all the audio copyrights on the show, and I'm super fucking proud about that. Another reason why these offers fell through was the ownership of my name. This was another crazy one, you guys. Owning Moses A, Moses A Santizo, Moses A with a fucking period, no period. This was something that again was completely new to me. I didn't know that someone could physically have ownership of a name. And honestly, even though all of this is such a huge compliment to the groundwork I've done, it is still hella scary. So in one of the contracts, they wanted to own anything in the future post signing with the name Mo, which meant if I went and did a partnership with any other company, they would be own a percentage of it because they own my name. So for example, if I were to do a collaboration with, let's say, Apple, right? Apple Music. If on any of the advertisements in that paid collaboration said Apple Music with Mo of Unshut, the name Mo and the name Unshut would be owned by that network, which means that they would be solely responsible to having a say how the distribution of that profit or of that paid partnership would be distributed. Isn't that crazy? And when it came to really thinking about this portion of the contracts, I want to give a big shout out to my younger brother Angel, who made a really good point while I was in the middle of the negotiation period with one of these contracts. He had asked me, well, are they going to have power on all of your social media platforms? Keep in mind, in one of the contracts, they had said, hey, we're going to boost your social media because of our exposure, because of who we are. are, which means your numbers are going to skyrocket. However, in one of the contracts they stated, but we are not going to manage your social media. You are fully responsible of promoting all of the episodes, doing all the clips, anything with social media related, we are not going to manage. Now, where I didn't really see this red flag until my brother made a really good point, he was like, well, if they're going to have ownership of, let's say, the title Unshut or the ownership of your name, if you do a paid collaboration on social media because your numbers are going to skyrocket, doesn't that give them profit to that paid collaboration on social media, even though they don't want to oversee your social media? So immediately I was like, that is such a good point. I need to make sure that we redline that on my contract. So then, of course, when we went to redline it, they were like, no, if you do any paid collaboration in general, that's our money. And I'm like, wait a minute, but if you're not going to oversee my social media, why can't that be excluded from the contract if you're not going to have any control over it? And then, of course, their argument back was, well, it's because we're giving you the exposure, right? Immediately, another red flag because I'm like, wait a minute. So you want to represent my show and you want to manage the show, you want to manage the audio, you want to manage the name, but you don't want to manage my social media accounts. And keep in mind, I would be so willing to give up profit or any of that money for someone to take over my social media. That would not bother me at all. Fuck, it's exhausting trying to promote my own shit, all right? But for them to be like, good luck, you're on your own with social media, but if you do something with social media, even though it's not related to the show, it's still your name, so we still get a profit off of that. Again, isn't that fucking wild? These are the things that, again, never even crossed my mind. So it was just another learning curveball, but I am so grateful that my brother made that point to me where he was like, hey, this may be a little bit shady. You may want to ask about that because it really did spark the entire domino effect on the ownership of the name and the show. So basically, even though on a paid collaboration on social media, it could have been with fucking, I don't know, Downey or Tide or something, but it wouldn't have anything to do with the show because it would have had the name Mo in it. They would have had the right to take that distribution. So this definitely made for a really good learning experience when it came to ownership of my name. Aside from the audio, my name as well. Super crazy. In one of the contracts, they stated that I wouldn't have a say in what ads we would be promoting on the show, which also meant political campaigns. This one was fucking crazy to me. The way my attorney explained this part of the contract was, hey, you're not going to have a say on ads or anything like that. So even if it means a political campaign, they want to run ads through your show, you don't have a say in that, which means any political campaign can go and drop ads as long as they're paying the network, they're going to pass those ads. And the reason that bothered me is because, let me put this into perspective. Could you imagine me doing an episode as a gay Hispanic male and one of the ads is for anti-LGBTQ plus whatever? That would be fucking crazy. The thought that just anyone can run whatever ads they wanted in the middle of my episode is absolutely bonkers. But another red flag that really stood out to me that I think it's worth sharing with you all is the length of those contracts. In one of those contracts, it specifically stated that it would be for 2 years. However, in fine print, okay, and again, all contracts we already know, there's always fine prints to everything, right? So shout out to my representation. He is the shit, but this is where I was so grateful because he was able to catch so much of that fine print, and this one being one of them. It stated that I was able to terminate this contract at any given point. However, if I were to do it before the contract was up, they would still own the audio, the voice, the name until that contract was finished. Plus, in some cases, for terminating it early, there could be a penalty of them extending that contract. So, for example, if the contract's for 2 years, but I want to terminate at the 1 year mark, sure, they'll let me go, but now they'll add on another year of ownership to the show, which essentially adds an additional year to that contract. So basically, it's saying, yeah, you can walk away whenever, but it's still going to be our show contractually for this amount of time. So when they presented that portion of the contract to me, they said, hey, you're at freedom to walk away whenever you want. That's all they said. So can you imagine how many people out there who don't have representation, who don't know how to read through these contracts, would just go based off what they are saying. The thought that anyone could have said, oh, sure, that means I can walk away whenever, without reading it and not realizing that now everything that they do outside of that network still goes to that network, whether they're independent or with another network, which is why in a lot of cases, a lot of networks buy each other out, right? Because they pay for that contract to be terminated. But imagine how many people do not know that. So they think, yeah, we can walk away whenever. That is so scary because then you lose the ad revenue that's coming from this network. And now out of pocket, you have to do everything yourself again, the producing, the writing, the invites, the editing, etc., and they get paid for it. Isn't that insane? I don't know if any of you guys are ever going to have any questions about these contracts, or if there's anyone that's listening that's curious about these contracts. I would be more than happy to answer more questions in regards to this if you have them. If I were to do an episode solely on these network offers and the contracts and why it didn't work out, bitch, this would be a 3 hour episode on just that, okay? So, did it suck? Yes, I was devastated. I felt so sad that I was getting so excited to go and be like, oh my gosh, you guys, it hasn't even been a year mark and I have my first deal and I'm going to be with this network. And here we are, well past over a year, and I am still not under a network. But all I can say about this is that as much as that hurt, as much as I felt like I missed out on a really big opportunity, I did learn a lot from it. And also, it's a huge compliment to me that I was trying to get fucked up the ass, you guys, by these networks, because it really did show that as an independent podcaster, I've had these amount of artists, I've had these amount of countries streaming it, I've had so many milestones, and they were like, if he did it by himself, imagine what he can do for our network. So at the end of the day, yes, it sucked, but it was a huge confidence booster and a huge compliment to me. So shout out to not letting these networks fuck me up the ass in the worst way possible. Super grateful to this day. And yes, I am still open to considering a good network deal. I am willing to give up rights and audio and social media accounts. I'm willing to do all of that. It just has to be fair. And by fair, I don't mean 50-50, right? I know the network's going to have the bigger upper hand. They have the channels, they have the distribution, they have the partnerships, they have the deals. So I'm not even looking for 50-50. Bitch, I'll settle for fucking 70-20. It just has to be fair and it has to be good. I am not going to do it like these two networks wanted for fucking nothing. At one point, one of them flat out disclaimed that they were just so impressed with how I can do this every single week with a guest and how they just wanted a piece of that. Isn't that insane? So again, compliment to me, but glad it didn't work out. I'm still open to offers. I'm still open to considerations, but there are so many other ways to keep this podcast going without being under a network. And that comes with some exciting plans I have for this show in the future, but we're not going to talk about them and jinx those yet. But I will tell you this, you don't need a network to make this successful. You can truly do it all on your own. There are different ways to make money off of this show. You don't need ads. You don't need any of that. So stay tuned for that, okay? One of the struggles I want to talk about real quick with this show specifically when it came to musical artists is positive alternative artists. If you know me, you know that I am a man of faith. Even though I live a gay lifestyle, I still have a faith in a relationship with God. And part of running a diverse show meant thinking, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get some of my positive alternative artists that I love on the show. Well, this quickly became one of the biggest disappointments on the show to date that I've never talked about because of the rejection that came from the positive alternative music community because they didn't want to collaborate with a show and a host that was gay or that had a potty mouth. And honestly, that was just a stinger on its own because something I take pride in is how well I am at reading a fucking room, okay? When it comes to having different guests on the show, the reason I don't treat them all the same is because every artist is promoting something different. So I'm not going to treat every interview the exact same. Now, is the essence of the creativity and how I pull inspiration from every guest the same? Absolutely, because that comes from me. But the thought that I would treat every guest the same as if they were one personality is such a huge insult to me. And like I said, I take pride in being able to read a room. I'm really fucking good at it. I'm also really good at picking up on cues on when someone doesn't want to talk about something. And honestly, their social media is very giving about that. I can tell when a guest is very passionate about a topic that they do want to talk about and it'll get them excited excited to talk about it on the show, and sometimes they can be telling on the things that they are hesitant about that they do not want to talk about. For example, if I have a guest that doesn't share anything about their personal life on their Instagram, why the fuck would I bring up their personal life on the show? But if they're constantly sharing their love relationship or their children, of course I'm going to bring that up. That's out for the public to see. They're sharing that. One of the biggest disappointments I had with scheduling an artist of this genre, I do want to share my experience with the one and only Jackie Velasquez. An issue I had with getting her on the show was her representation were all about the show. They loved the concept, they loved everything, but then out of nowhere, they just ghosted me. They just stopped responding. And I'll tell you why this rubbed me the wrong way, because this is what I think happened, okay? I think management agreed to having her on the show and we coordinated dates multiple times, okay? But then all of a sudden ghosted me because I think they jumped the gun and I think that they agreed to the show without pitching it to her. And then when they pitched it to her, she was like, that's not a platform I want to be involved with. Now, keep in mind, I am totally speculating here, so don't take all of this by value of my word because I could also be wrong, but I'm just sharing my experience from my side of the story. And the reason why this one punched me in my gut is because I was so excited to have her. She was a huge artist for me growing up. She was one of the first artists that I remember going completely mainstream, going pop with her music as a Christian artist. And that was influential to me back in the day. And as I got older, I loved her Spanish stuff. I loved her English stuff. I just loved her as an artist. And so the thought of honoring her on my show with the creative segments I come up with would have meant the entire world to me. So imagine the biggest disappointment when someone like her is confirmed to be on the show multiple times because we rescheduled multiple times and all of a sudden they just stopped responding. Literally to this day, I've yet to even hear back a why. And I was fucking honest. I even sent her management a lengthy email explaining how I can see how this is not the alignment for her genre. I can see why a Christian artist wouldn't want to come on my show because I'm gay, because I cuss, because I've had vulgar topics on my show. I get it, but just say that. Don't leave me hanging. That shit hurt. And so when it comes to rejection, it doesn't bother me. I've had artists that have been extremely transparent about why they don't want to come on the show. Macy Gray being one of them, the iconic, I try to say goodbye and not choked. I didn't have enough fucking followers for her, okay? When I tried to get her on the show, she was flat out transparent about how many followers you got. Bitch, not enough for you, Macy Gray, because at the end of the day, you are still the Macy Gray. You're fucking iconic. So yeah, I've heard all types of reasons to why artists don't want to come on my show. Was there an initial thought with someone like Macy Gray where I was like, fuck you, you care about the followers? Of course, I'm fucking human, but at the same time, I appreciated the transparency, and I'm obviously not going to not listen to her fucking music just because she rejected me on the show. That's crazy. I still adore her, I still love her as an artist, but I appreciated that level of transparency, which is why it stings when you have an artist like Jackie Velasquez who's like, yeah, we're going to be on the show. We're so excited. This is so great. Just to leave me hanging, just to not respond. Do I want to be like, fuck you, Jackie, that's so dirty. I don't see you getting invited to call her daddy. Yeah, duh. But honestly, could you guys imagine if she's on Call Her Daddy next week or something? Like, honestly, it's the reason why I don't take these things so personal. But to Jackie and her team, they did me dirty. I'm definitely not ever going to forget that. And I don't even fucking want that episode anymore because it's left a really bad taste in my mouth. Because at the end of the day, it was either the management or the artist who made the decision to leave me high and dry. And that is not fucking cool. Another difficulty I've run into the show is the gut wrenching feeling when a guest has absolutely nothing to say post recording the episode. They don't respond, they don't say anything, they don't even comment on the announcement. Thanks for having me. Nothing. And recently, one of the most gut-wrenching experiences I've had on the show was my episode with Morgan J. And I want to give context about this one real quick. The week before this episode aired, I was doing the editing of the episode and I got to a point in the episode where I made a comment to him about how like, oh my gosh, I've seen all the other shows you've done. I'm probably the smallest. And he goes to say how no, I don't look at the size of the show. I'm super excited to come on, whatever. Don't quote me on that. But basically, it was me acknowledging that he had been on huge platforms and mine is so small compared to all of them. While I was editing that portion of the episode, I go to pause it and I start crying. I start to get in my feelings about how I am just a small fish in this big ocean of shows and podcasts. And honestly, I went down this pity road going back to I don't have a network. I don't have a lot of social media followers. I'm grateful we did the interview, but I still feel bad because I'm the smallest show he's ever had. And it sucks being the smaller one. It sucks feeling like I have no support, right? I mean, to this day, I announce a guest. How many of you guys are actually engaging in my post? How many of you guys are actually liking, commenting to push it out into the algorithm? Almost none of you guys. And I don't take it personal, but it's just to show the true defeat of what I go through on a weekly basis when I'm so excited to announce a guest, knowing damn well that no one's going to really interact with it unless it's someone like Morgan J, where all of a sudden people were in my DMs. Congrats, that's so cool. Can't wait to tune in. Bitch, where the fuck were you last week? Now, I'm not being a hater and I'm not trying to push anyone away. I'll take all the views I can get, but I'm sure some of you guys can understand how that can make me feel when a week before it's crickets, but now that it's someone popular, everyone wants to congratulate and stay in my DMs. That can be extremely hurtful because I care for my guests. I do every episode with such pride. And so going back to that story, I pause the episode and I start to cry. I start to basically compare myself to all the other shows. And I am just like, man, this sucks. Like, why am I doing this? Why do I put myself through this every fucking week when the victories of having a guest on are so good? And then when it comes to promoting, I feel like such a failure. I feel like I'm flopping in front of everyone, the embarrassment, blah, blah, blah. And so I shit you not, I stop crying. I start kind of like brushing it off. I'm like, listen, I still have this episode to edit and I still have to air it next week. So suck it up, move on. It's okay. Your time is coming, right? I start to pep talk myself. I go to Instagram, I open it up, and I see him sharing all of these collaborations with people who have less followers than me. So immediately I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't think he's going to care about my social media platform. I think he'll show the episode some support. So I started to get a bit of this hopeful feeling back, right? I go and continue editing the episode. A couple days go by. I announce it on Monday. Crickets. I don't hear anything. Something I like to do every Monday morning at 7 a.m. is I like to put out an episode either to the artist or to management and say, hey, this is the episode title. It was inspired by this. So excited. No expectation. Hopefully you can tune in whenever you have a chance. No response. So you guys see how situations like this can be taken a little bit personal. So of course, after it airs, I go down the rabbit hole of what could it have been? Was it because I rubbed him the wrong way? Did I try to be too funny? Maybe it's because I was flirty. Was I flirty? Was I not flirty enough? Did I not have good questions? Did I offend him? And I went down this rabbit hole of trying to figure out all the reasons why he wouldn't interact with me at all. On the episode, I asked him, hey, do you know so-and-so? And I blurred that out because I want to be respectful of that person's name, right? They're not on the show. And so I blurred it out on purpose. And so I started to think, could that have been what rubbed him the wrong way? Maybe he thinks I was lying, right? But I do want to share that connection with Morgan J real quick. The name that I used on that episode is one of my cousin's best friend. And so when I went down the deep dive of who Morgan J was before inviting him on the show, I realized, oh my gosh, my cousin's best friend worked on Wild 'N Out while he was on there. I could just easily reach out to her and be like, hey, could you do me a solid and reach out to Morgan J? I want to have him on. But I've talked about this before. I have been doing this groundwork with no fucking connections. To this day, I've yet to ask for any favors. And so I immediately thought, don't do that. That's tacky. Reach out on your own and see if you can get him on the show without name dropping, without using any connection. So when it came down to filming, I name dropped her, be like, hey, you know, so and so. Well, I didn't elaborate on that episode how I knew that person. And so again, I started to overthink and think, could that have been what rubbed him the wrong way? What if he maybe went to her and was like, oh, how do you know Mo? And she was like, I don't know Mo. But because I didn't elaborate how we were connected, maybe that rubbed him the wrong way. Again, overthinking, right? But another thing that I found so gut-wrenching about this was that in the beginning of the episode, we talked about how I didn't use any connections to get to him or to any other guest, that I shot my shot on my own. And at the end of that episode, he goes to tell me, hey, use my name, use me as a reference for any other artists that you want to pitch to. If I know them, I'll put in a good word for you.
I'm happy to always recommend this, and you could always use me as a vouch if you try to book some other people because there really were some good questions. And I mean, it was much different than what I've normally done, so I appreciate it.
I ended up taking that part out of the episode because I thought it would be tacky to have it on, right? I didn't want to start writing everyone that knew who Morgan J was and said, hey, you know Morgan, I had him on the show. Would you like to come on? No, hello, I'm running this thing again completely with full integrity and with intention of I am inviting people I want to have on, not because of their name, and especially because of who they are connected to. So I clipped that out of the episode and I didn't air that part. So again, going down that rabbit hole, I'm like, did it upset him that I cut that out of the episode and blurred this connection in the beginning? All to say that to this day, this has been one of the most disappointing interactions because I really don't know what I did to make him completely ghost me. I thought it was a great episode. I thought that his validation about asking him questions he's never been asked before and the creativity and the thoughtfulness of it was so validating and motivating for me to hear coming from him. I still don't know what went wrong. Now, keep in mind, because he's someone with millions of followers and because I pitched my show to him, I didn't establish expectations about collaboration on the post or anything like that. So I really did, again, going down that rabbit hole, I thought, well, you didn't set those expectations. This is completely on you. But what kills me the most is that to this day, I never even got a thank you. I didn't get anything post recording, not from him or his manager Topher. And that to this day is something that really hurt my feelings. Like it sucks coming on to here being like, oh, it hurt my feelings. But again, we're being transparent. And so it's so difficult when shit like this happens, you don't start to take it personal. Like the whole Jackie Velasquez thing. Did my gayness bother you? Was I too gay? Was I too vulgar? Did I have too much of a potty mouth? You start to overanalyze who you are, and that can be so dimming to my spirit. And so I'm being completely honest with you guys, not because I want to badmouth anyone on the show, but because I'm being transparent, right? And again, I don't expect much from my guest, but sometimes a thank you really does go a long way. And I have had so many guests who didn't collaborate on the post, who didn't interact with the post, who didn't shout out the episode, but they emailed me in private and said, thank you so much for having me. Or after it aired, they DM'd me to say thank you so much for having them. Jake Jones, perfect example. He was a big name that I was so excited to have on. And even though he didn't share the episode or interact with my post, he slid into my DMs the week it aired to say thank you so much once again. Keep in mind, he had already emailed me thanking me for the opportunity. So yes, a thank you goes a long way. And it really does make it a reality for someone like me who's like, listen, I'm not expecting a fucking handout. Some of you guys know who I am connected to in this industry and how easy it would be for me to call in fucking favors and have big names on the show. But I am putting in this groundwork on my own. So of course, situations like this hit me to my fucking core. Not even a thank you, not even a response to the announcement, the email, nothing. That shit sucked, especially after everything I just shared about what I edited out of the episode. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me, right? So it's difficult to not internalize the outcome of some of these interactions, but they do happen. And so I'll wrap this up with this. A thank you and showing a little bit of gratitude, regardless of how popular or famous you are, really does go a long way. And you know what? I feel like this is a really good moment on the episode to give some unsolicited advice to artists, and then we can officially wrap up this episode. But this is what I have to say. If you are an artist, whether you're independent or whether you're with management or a label, these are some tips I have for you, okay? The first one and the most important one, respond to your shit, okay? I know damn well some of you, especially indie artists, you are not that fucking busy to respond to an email. There are definitely ways to respond to an email and properly decline an invitation than to not respond at all, okay? There have been some artists that have less followers, less monthly listeners, less accolades than some of my guests, and they think they're too good to respond. It's so crazy, especially when I know they read it on Instagram, okay? So respond to your shit. It's not that hard. Secondly, I want to say this, run a tight ship. If you have representation, be on top of the representation that you are choosing to represent you. your representation, whether it's on your own or with someone else, it's so important as it's the face value of your brand. For example, over a year ago, I pitched the show to the one and only Lindsay fucking Lohan, and her team was so on top of it with giving a reason why they didn't want her to be on the show, which honestly, I'll share it because why not? She was just not doing press at the moment. She was getting ready to go into filming and then she would resume press, but a podcast right now was just not a good fit for her. Now, let me tell you why I respect that response so much, okay? Because one, they didn't just not respond. They gave a reason and they politely said, no, thank you. Basically, it's Lindsay Lohan. What the fuck was I thinking that Lindsay Lohan would want to sit in through a fucking Zoom call? Okay, her time is money. She is a fucking icon. But you know what? I shot my shot anyway. And you know what? I got a really good response from her management. And all I keep thinking about to this day about that interaction, do you guys remember when she had that reality TV show and she got into it with her assistant Matt about making copies to the keys? I'll clip it on here for those that don't know. To this day, this is one of the most iconic scenes ever. It's fucking better than porn. I loved it when it aired.
As long as I have access to this place early in the morning.
Matt, you always will
that's
have
fine.
access to this place. I'm
I
gonna get
haven't.
angry for a second. The first day that I got the keys, I asked you to make copies of the keys. All day the other day, were you not coming up and down the elevator? Did you not have keys? Steven said if there were one moment and he needed that, you knew you needed keys. If you knew that, I could have run and gotten keys. Just like right now, I gave you the keys. I said, will you please give these to Matt? Ask him to run and make copies. He said. You then said, Matt said he will do it later. What did I say? This is exactly what I've been dealing with. This is why now I have no keys to the front door to get into my own building because there were no copies made. What did I do? Steven went, got the keys. We're gonna have him back. That easy.
Great.
But that was something that you
I
said you didn't want to do, that you could have done
But
already
it said
5 days from before.
But I could have done
But
it.
this was Friday, Matt. This was Friday. You said you were going to do this, you're not doing it. And then today I have like a breakdown because it's a lot of meat for me to deal with when I have a lot of other people saying they're helping me, but it was keys. It takes 10 minutes
The keys?
at Dwayne Reed. It's still but it was an issue and it affected me. So like instead of making excuses about it, today, when it happens again, and then someone's going to, like, I just simply ask Michael to pass the keys down because my sister's first time in here. Just go get the keys, please.
I'll get the keys.
Like,
I just need time
don't
with
make me
you.
feel bad about it and then have to send Steven to do it when he's the driver. That's not his job.
I can get the keys, Linz. I just need time with you.
Okay, well, today wasn't about you needing time. It was about me needing time. And if
every day I give you
I were,
time.
in all due respect, not to be nasty, but this is a role reversal right now. I feel like I'm working for you, and I have to give you the time that you need, and I should be getting the paycheck. And that's not right.
It's not true at all.
Well, then I shouldn't feel that way.
You shouldn't.
Right. So then please stop badgering me into sitting to meet with you when I have a lot of other things going on as well.
Yeah, but
I can't be present for you if I can't be present for myself.
I need to get answers from you so I can get stuff done for you.
Right, and you just got a list of things to do.
Yeah, we're still at it.
Right, you don't have to be
Right.
disrespectful.
I'm not.
I know that you have a lot of things going on in your life, and I feel like there's a lot of that's being projected onto me in many other ways.
In what way?
In the ways that you talk to me, first of all.
Linz, I hardly get to talk to you. That's the issue.
Okay, so sending an email of a list of things that I need done, if that's the way that it needed to happen, and then it didn't happen, that's my fault, so I'm the bad boss.
I didn't say it was your fault. I said the keys were my fault.
Okay, so you can make a list of what you would like for me to do as your boss. Does that make you happy?
Give me 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night.
She was such a boss bitch, okay? She is in full control of her team and her management. As much as people back then used to like to talk about how she was a hot mess, etc., she is definitely the type of artist that's like, don't fuck with my opportunity and don't fuck with my money. And I appreciate that so much. So I say all that to say, if you are an indie artist or an up-and-coming artist, respond to your shit. If an icon like Lindsay Lohan can run a tight ship with everything else she has going on in her team can respond and say no thank you, so can you. Now I know some of you guys are probably going to be like, well, it's because she pays them good money, etc. That's not the fucking point. The point is that she has a team that she checks in on and she's like, you will respond to all my opportunity that comes my way. That is what I fucking pay you for. And that really does show me that she is in control of her management. She's not going to let any opportunity, big or small, go unheard and unnoticed. And I appreciate that. But you also wonder why she is this iconic artist as she is today, and why some of you guys think that you're this iconic artist, but you're barely making any waves. I think this is just a humbling learning experience to some of you guys to really come back down to earth, and how you conduct yourself is so important, and also run yourself like a fucking business. It's not going to hurt someone's feelings to say no thank you. You guys have no idea how much I appreciate being rejected to my face, and honestly, there are so many artists and publicists artists out there who have my response whenever they say no thank you. My response to them is always, hey, your acknowledgement and response is a win on its own. No hard feelings. If there's ever room for alignment, please keep me in mind. Thank you so much for responding. Something along those lines. I am grateful for rejection. I think rejection is such a good thing, but again, it's taking the time to do so. You are not too good to not respond to a fucking email. If you cannot respond to a little podcast like mine, how are you supposed to eventually run a multi-million-dollar business and brand as an artist if you can't even respond to a fucking show and say no thank you, regardless of what the reason is, regardless if it's because I'm too small, maybe you don't like my style, I don't have enough followers, which again, we've already talked about. That is a thing. Some artists do care about that. That's okay. It's the communication that has value in it and fucking matters. Trust me, someone like me knows how to take rejection, all right? I'm overweight and gay. The grinder trauma is fucking serious, okay? A little no is not going to stop me from pursuing this show and everything that I want to come of it, okay? So take fucking notes. If Lindsay Lohan's team can say no thank you, so can you. There is a way to reject the invitation and not burn a bridge, because as many of you know, this is such a small world. So don't burn a bridge with me, bitch, all right? Because you might see me in the future and it'll call for an awkward interaction, because you know me, I have a big mouth and I'm definitely not going to bite my tongue about it. I'm going to be like, yeah, I remember you. Because trust me, there are a lot of artists that I didn't even mention on this episode who are in my inbox who have done me fucking dirty, and they know exactly who they are. So that's my unsolicited advice to any artist that ever listens to this or sees this on social media. Take some fucking notes and know that I am also taking notes myself. Week after week, I am learning, and I do believe that it's because of that openness to growing and learning is why the show continues to grow. Maybe not at the pace that I would want it to, but it is growing, and I am not slowing down anytime soon. So sorry if this episode got very lengthy and I talked way too much and you lost track of everything I said. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for giving me your time, and I can't wait for us to resume with special guests starting next Monday. Have a great rest of your week. And if you haven't noticed, the engagement and interaction is so important to push this out for new faces to discover me and my show and my artists. So like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. If you see me posting, like it, tell me I fucking suck, tell me you hate me, tell me whatever you want, be nice, be naughty. Any interaction's better than no interaction, and it does go a long way. Anything else that I should bring up? Did I over name drop? Not me just giving an entire lecture on burning bridges, and here I am fucking name dropping some people, but you know what? It's okay. There's a deeper message to all of this, and I hope you guys can all see the bigger picture, and more importantly, the intention of some of those names I dropped. Don't mean ill will to anyone. I do this all out of love, and it's just the only way I can share these experiences with you guys as authentically and transparent as possible. Thank you so much for giving me your time, and hopefully it's not another 30 weeks before another solo episode. I love you all. Stay tuned for what's to come next. Hey, if you've made it this far, don't forget to follow the socials on the screen or in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. See you next week.